Hey guys, it's me, Shiva here, and welcome to another checkup video. And potentially the last one I will make. Firstly, for those who are new to the channel, or you don't know about my checkup videos, I'll brief you up on that, but not waste your time, so I'll try to mention that quick. Ever since 2021, I've been making these sort of talking videos that I label as checkup videos. It's basically me just kind of talking about just some stuff I've been going through in the past and some things that have happened, blah blah blah, right? And this will be the fifth checkup video I've ever made, and I feel like this might be potentially the last one. Now, I'm not going to go over too much for this video in terms of what I went through this year. There's a few things that are kind of important, like, ooh, new Sonic stuff and it's been great and all that stuff, and ooh, kidney stones on Christmas morning. Like, look, there's a lot of stuff that I could talk about, but honestly, I kind of want to keep this video short and straight to the main point and everything, because if I'm being honest, life in general and stuff that's been happening around it, I really don't give much of a damn. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying, like, look, I'm not that badly depressed, but I am super fucking depressed. Before you guys take the assumption, no, I'm not going to be talking about politics and shit, because nobody wants to have constructive conversations on that. So, and I know how YouTube is, so if people aren't going to be constructive in person, why would I assume that they will be on YouTube? So I'm not going to waste my time with that. Let's just say if I don't make it past through this year, well, you know why. And you have no one but the annoying orange and the Yahtzee Musk. I can't believe I said that. You have them to blame. There you go. Okay, but jokes aside, I want to talk more about my disconnection that I've been having with some stuff as of late. So, when did this all start? I can't really say when it started, because I honestly have no idea per se. But long story short, I've noticed it recently because I've stopped playing a lot of games that require you to play, like, or not require you per se, but like if you want to get a lot of stuff in the game, you have to play every day and, you know, grind out every little thing and whatnot. Let's just say I stopped playing a lot of those games. With the exception of games like Withering Waves, Punishing Gray Raven, and Snowbreak, because unlike Hoyoverse games, those games that I just mentioned actually respect my fucking time. Recently, I've just been playing a lot of games because I think they're fun to play, or they're games that I just enjoy. That's the thing about me these days. I don't give a damn about a game's story or gameplay or whatever. Don't get me wrong, I would very much love to have a great story and great gameplay, but that's not gonna be... That's not required for me to enjoy a game. You can have one of the shittiest stories ever, but your gameplay could be more peak than anything else I've ever played. Your gameplay could be absolutely infuriating, even if it's straight simple. But if it's got a story to back it up, then hey, that's still pretty cool, right? Or hell, you could have a story that just virtually doesn't exist because the cutscenes barely explain all, and have gameplay that's... I was gonna compliment Dark Souls. Ew, no. I'd rather compliment the actual fun games. And I've made this abundantly more clear when I stopped playing Final Fantasy XIV and actually went back to Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis. That's right, I left my favorite video game of all time for a video game that I used to critique a lot. And looking back, I mean, my critiques were justified, but they were definitely a bit more harsh. But anyways, okay. Back to the main topic of my disconnect. I've been playing a lot more games that I feel like I don't gotta take seriously at all. I could just simply play either by myself or with some friends and have a good time, really. Sure, even if it has some progression systems, I don't have to do any of that stuff. I don't need to aim to get anything or anyone. I could just simply play the game and have fun. And this is where I've sort of seen a decline to where I'm kind of like, I'm different from a lot of people. Primarily my friends. Now, do I love my friends? Abso-fucking-lutely. And there's nothing in the world that will ever change that. But most of their interests come from these gacha games and other games where they gotta put in a lot of time and effort just for a chance to get a character. You guys wonder why I praise Kuro so much. They at least let me have the fucking characters. Well, maybe aside from like Withering Waves, but the challenges in that game aren't even monotonous or stupid in any way, so it gets a pass in my book. I feel like I can't really connect with most of my friends on some games because, well, our tastes are pretty different. Now don't get me wrong, it's not that we don't enjoy similar games. You know, there's some friends I have that really like Sonic the Hedgehog, for example, Warframe, and all sorts of other games, Persona, Final Fantasy, you know, the list goes on. However, even with some of these interests, we don't really do anything with them. For example, a new social deduction game came out recently, Death Note Killer Within. You might have already known if you've seen the 2 videos that I've uploaded as such. It was only one recording session that I did with a bunch of friends, but honestly it was the most fun I've ever had. I usually don't really care too much about Among Us. I mean, more accurately, I don't really care too much to really play it often. It's fun, especially if you have the right people to play with, but it's just a little too simple for me, and I don't want to go through the effort of modding. But Death Note Killer Within was completely different, and I absolutely enjoyed it. I was even thinking of getting people for every weekends to, you know, play it. And then it became to the point to where I was the only one mentioning the fucking game. It's no wonder none of us plays it. If I'm literally the only one who wants to try to make an effort at getting people in, well, I should just stop it before I get more ahead. But Shiva, you may ask, why not just ask a bunch of people, you know? Maybe set us time. And ordinarily you'd be right. This is where it comes to my second issue, however, and that's involving my disconnect. Recently, the past couple of months, I felt like I was sort of away from the friend group. I don't know how to really explain it. Let me give an example. See if you guys can try to understand what I'm trying to say, because if I'm being honest, not even I'm entirely sure what I'm experiencing. Let's say, for example, I'm in a Discord VC with, say, 4 or 5 people, and we're all just kind of talking. Maybe some of us are playing different games, or we're all playing a game together. It doesn't matter, right? The point is, we're all in a VC and interacting with one another. But recently for me, I've been feeling like I've been less involved in these VCs. Whether it be I daze off and do something else entirely, or I just don't really care about the topics being discussed. And it seems like in a lot of cases, more often than not, I kind of get overshadowed by some things. I'll be doing something with someone in the VC and then out of nowhere a whole new discussion shows up from other people, which is really distracting, as if they weren't even paying attention to my existence at all. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that I'm outright being ignored. That's not the case at all. It just kind of feels like sometimes they don't read the room, some of these people, and completely ignore some of the things that's going on in the server before they start saying stuff. It's not just with me, there's other people who have also been overshadowed with these examples, but it's also been happening to me as well, which has made me notice how more often it happens. It's not a major bad thing, and it doesn't really bother me all that much, but it is a contributor to my disassociation all in all. But there's also some other things, which is in relation to some of the topics that my friends talk about. Keep in mind, I'm not going to be mentioning anybody specific because I don't wish to out anybody out, and it's not something too major in the sense, at least not in my eyes. But it's something I gotta mention because, well, let me just put it to you like this. Friends are there to be there for one another. That makes sense, right? You do stuff together, whether it be play games, hang out, go out to eat, whatever, right? But you also gotta have each other's back in the sense of, if someone's doing something stupid, you call them out for it, right? That's why people were calling me out for a lot of things that I've done, because they don't want me to continue doing stupid shit, which I respect them for, of course. So naturally, I had to retaliate. I'm sure it's no surprise to a lot of you guys who have seen video games and their industries kind of going all over the place with more recent titles. Don't get me wrong, a lot of new games these days that have been coming out have been really stellar pieces of art. But then you got the others that are just like, oh, we'll just patch it later, throw it out now. Oh my god. There's been some mediocre games, trash games, downright unfinished games, and you're probably thinking, damn, people gotta hate these games for that. Look, I get it. Sometimes these games, when they include things to try to be more inclusive, it's kind of in your face. I get it and I understand it. I'm not personally a fan of it that myself. And that says something. I'm trans and gay. So obviously if I'm saying that it couldn't bother me, then, it's obviously not a problem with just bigots or whatever. It's just a fundamental problem. You can have these inclusions of characters even in games that didn't have these characters, but you gotta make sure you implement them in a way that works. A terrible example would be Dragon Age the Veilguard. I believe they had a transgender character in this game, and they completely made the shit god awful. Like, they get so upset about being misgendered that they start doing push-ups. What the fuck is that shit? That's an example of the inclusion being, like, really shit, right? And if it was only that people were complaining about, I wouldn't be discussing this. People just don't seem to like the inclusion of this sort of stuff at all. But what about for the characters that have these sort of things but don't make it known at all? In fact, even if you were to find out, it's from subtle hints that you would have to go out of your way to find. And the best part is when people say that this stuff is woke, they automatically assume it's a bad game. I was in a VC with said friends, and one of them brought it up, and I just snapped on them, simply saying, you need to fucking rank games simply based on how the games perform, if the story was good, if the gameplay was good, or if it fills criteria that actually fucking matters. Rank games properly, and everybody just fucking stopped talking for a bit. Because I'm the kind of person to where if I snap or if I go off, you done fucked up. Normally, I don't like talking back to others. In fact, I try to avoid it, if all possible. So the fact that I broke right there and I had to tell someone off says numbers that they were obviously doing something they shouldn't have been doing. And again, I get it. If it's implemented in a way that just seems stupid or shoehorned in, I can understand critiquing it on that sort of regard. But here's the thing. The Dragon Age game wasn't bad because of its poor inclusion of that transgender character. It was bad because of so many other elements. The gameplay was repetitive, there was some art design choices that were just outright atrocious. And may I remind you that this whole questline thing with that trans character is completely optional. You don't have to do it. Hell, the average player might not even know that that quest exists. Most people with a brain will think the game is bad because of the actual flaws that it has. Not saying that the misrepresentation of trans people in that game isn't a, actual flaw or whatever, but that one flaw alone shouldn't automatically make the game just bad outright. Does it make that quest bad outright? Yeah, absolutely, because the story for that quest too is also just terrible. But if it was just that one quest, that isn't enough to make the game itself bad. And don't get me wrong, my friends weren't exactly like that, where they were like, oh, inclusion, and then, hate the game. That's not what it was at all. It was just them constantly mentioning that word that I don't even think anyone really knows what it means anymore. I mean, people are saying that Indiana Jones is woke for attacking Nazis? I'm sorry, they're bad people! What the fuck? I thought woke was meant to be bad in your guys' eyes. Are you saying that killing Nazis is bad? Am I allowed to even say that? Whatever, I'll leave it in the video, and if I get demonetized or age restricted, what the fuck ever at this point. The point is, I was getting fed up with it. I mean, can we not just have a term that actually makes fucking sense? I mean, what does woke even mean? Who came up with the term? Like, why are we just saying that things are just being inclusive? Like, I mean, that's what the whole point of it is, right? At least that's what I originally thought. I don't know, maybe people are just stupid all in all. I've also had some conflict with some other people. I had to basically tell people that I do not want to be their friend anymore because they were doing some heinous shit that I do not condone in the slightest. Another problem I have with my whole, friend situation is I just don't feel like I've been involved with them a lot. Sure, most of them are busy doing their own IRL shit and whatever, right? And obviously it makes sense that I wouldn't be able to spend time with most of those people. But it seems like even with some of the people who do have free time, I either don't have the guts to ask them if they want to hang out or whatever, or they're usually busy hanging out with other people and I just don't want to intrude on them. There's so many people who I probably can talk to, and people who I can definitely hang out with a lot, but I just choose not to. I usually just choose to be on my own, doing my own thing. And yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I've already discussed this for many years that I just love single-player games. Hell, the game that you're seeing in the background being played is called Severed Steel, which is a single-player movement shooter game, which is also one of my favorite games of all time. I recommend playing it if you haven't played it. If you're a fan of games like Ultra Kill and Doom, for example, you might like this game. I really want to interact with more people, and it just feels like I can't. And it feels like even when I do interact with some people, they don't seem really interested in my existence, which makes me not really want to interact more. And I'm not saying it's the fault of these people, of course, because I know they probably have a lot of stuff they're doing IRL, so they don't have this sort of time. I mean, hell, even I myself get busy every once in a while and can't respond to people immediately. It's just a part of life, and a lot of my friends who I've known since I was a teenager, we're all grown-ups now. We got our own shit we're doing and whatever. That doesn't make it hurt any less, though. Sure, I can understand it and all of that stuff, but it's not gonna make it any less painful, you know? Despite all this, I still obviously have a lot of respect for my friends. I mean, most of the friends who I'm still friends with, some of them were part of the old friend group from VRChat and all that shit, and some of them are part of my new current friend group who I really love hanging out with. I don't know. I guess my nature of being a come and go kind of person, you know, chatting a bit and then leaving, that side of me is probably never gonna leave, I've realized. And it's still going to exist even with the friend groups that I trust the most. Now, there's one more thing I want to talk about for the friend group, which can kind of lead as a segue for me talking about my family, and that's just, I don't tell them jack shit. Remember when I said around the beginning of the video that I've gotten a lot more depressed and just overall not really the happiest? Not to a dangerous degree per se, but I'm definitely not as happy as I used to be. During this little phase when I realized I wasn't too happy, I started working a lot more on YouTube videos. Hell, I got 5 videos uploaded in January alone. That's a new record. I've never uploaded that many videos since probably back in 2021, if not 2022. I used to upload a video once every week, and usually these days it takes like a month or two just to get one video out. But recently I've been able to throw out a lot more videos and of pretty good quality, if not better quality than some of my previous videos. I'm especially proud of the Pillar Chase 2 videos that I've made. They haven't performed as well as some of my other videos that I've been uploading recently, but I really do love how they turned out, and I recommend some of you guys watch them if you're a fan of people just fucking around in, you know, killer-based games, yeah. And overall, I've just been trying to distract myself, in a sense, from these negative thoughts. These thoughts have always been around, granted, but they weren't really amplified until recently. For reference, on TikTok, I've been reposting a lot of edgy stuff for months and months, to the point to where I even had somebody DMing me about if I was okay because I was reposting such depressing, dark shit. And fundamentally, I was not okay at all. But I still simply just responded saying that I was okay because I didn't want to worry the individual in question. And that's a problem I have. Even when I'm suffering through shit, the only time where I'll actually tell people if I'm actually, you know, going through something or whatever is if I'm at my breaking point. Otherwise, I usually try to fake a smile and just kind of push on with life. Looking back, I shouldn't have lied and simply just said that I was going through a lot. But I didn't, because, well, my dumbass brain just chose not to. I won't even tell these sort of issues to my best friends. And it might be because I've had some trauma of telling people about my issues in the past, and I don't know, I guess my mind is just nervous about the potential repercussions that it may come with. I won't go too deep into that because it's my own business, of course, but let's just say I've gone through some things that has made telling people my problems a lot harder. Normally I'm fine with it in one-on-one conversations with people who I really, really trust, but I don't like telling these sort of issues to a group of people or multiple people at once. Hell, even if it's still in one-on-one sessions, telling multiple people about my issues in the span of a couple of hours or days can be very taxing for me. What makes matters worse, right, is at least with my friends. If I told them a lot of my issues, I'm sure that 99% of them would at the very least try to convince me that I'll be okay in life, and that whatever I try to do, I'm sure I can make something out of it. But I'm slowly wondering if they're the only ones, because my family would probably be the exact opposite. Don't get me wrong, there are some exceptions to this rule, such as my brother Brendan and my cousin Jordan. Those two are the family members I trust the most. I mean, for Christ's sake, I've known them since their entire lives, so naturally I trust them. Usually whenever I say depressing shit or things that's been on my mind to other family members, however, they usually brush it off of, you're just doing it for attention, or blah blah blah. I'm sure if you guys have families who do not listen to mental health or any of that stuff, you probably already know 90% of what my parents probably have already said. And look, I get it. They grew up in a time where you basically kind of had to just sort of suck it up, right? Like if there was any sort of issue they had, they simply had to just suck it up and keep on going. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing ultimately. Hell, if anything, I envy their skill to be able to just push all those feelings to the side and do what needs to be done. I'm just not like that, unfortunately. As much as I would love to push those negative feelings to the side and do what I need to do, it's a lot easier said than done. And even when I can do it, I'm just mentally dying on the inside. Basically just faking everything that I'm doing to the point to where I'm asking myself, am I even alive at this point? I'm doing all these things that makes me feel more like a robot than an actual human being, to the point to where I question if what I'm doing is even worth it. I used to do that a lot back at my old job. I used to deal with all kinds of shitty people, but I had to put on a fake smile. Granted, we were wearing masks back then because, COVID and all that shit, but I still technically faked a smile, if you will. But on the inside, I was simply being like, am I even getting paid enough for this shit? Short answer, no, I was not being paid enough for this shit. There's no wonder I should have quit years ago. I say years ago, but I only worked there for like slightly above 1 year, so. But here's what doesn't make any sense to me at all. My family has a history with mental health issues, so they clearly understand the whole premise of it and how affecting it can be on someone's life. So why don't they act that way? Again, I get it, they grew up at a time where they just kind of had to suck it up, but doesn't that also mean that they would want to make things easier for everyone else? So they wouldn't have to suffer similar fates? Actually, looking at who they voted for, maybe I'm answering my own question. Like I said, I'm sure 99% of my friends would at the very least be somewhat comforting if I had to tell them whatever the hell was going through my mind. But I never tell my family really anything I'm suffering through because what difference will it really make? But obviously I couldn't just keep these feelings bottled up, right? On my phone, I actually have a diary app that I use that, not every day, but every once in a while I write down some stuff in it, either going over some events that happened the specific day, or just overall writing down whatever thoughts I may have. I plan for if I ever hypothetically had to stop using the app, or if overall I was about to lose some access to my phone or whatever, that I would find a way to print my diary entries and have them somewhere, so that way someone can find them and learn more about the hell I've endured. In case I never get that far, however, I have this notebook here. It's a notebook that was originally given to me for the sake of writing notes for like school and stuff, right? But I never actually used this specific one, primarily because it was way too big and kind of bulky and also a little old in comparison to the other notebooks I had that were a lot more slim, compact, and overall just nicer. But anyways, On the just in case that I can't print out the other diary entries, I have written down some stuff in this notebook that goes over some shit that, is kind of on my mind. The results? Looking back, this is edgy as fuck. I have this notebook set up, pretty out in the open, right? To where anyone could pick it up and read it. But unless somebody knows what it is ahead of time, they would probably just assume it's school writing, or at the very least, there's nothing inside at all. And yeah, I probably shouldn't have it out in the open on the just in case someone actually does pick it up and accidentally reads it. Maybe I'll find a better place to hide it, but I don't really got much for my room, so I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, that's a backup plan, so people can know what the hell they put me through, which will be fun. And my parents will learn that their son has been dead for years. I mean, I know they have ice, but they aren't using them. Anyways, in conclusion, overall, I'm not doing too great mentally. There's a lot that's on my mind and a lot of things I really want to talk about. But to make sure that this video doesn't get too edgy or whatever, I mean, I've already said the you-know-what stuff with Musk just a couple minutes ago, so I'm probably already on that trail, but whatever. But again, I'm still gonna keep doing what I'm doing and just kind of existing in life. Will anything change from how I feel now? Probably not. But that's okay. I don't really care if it does or doesn't change, because at the end of the day, I guess I'm still alive, right? That is what people want. So yeah, that's kind of all I want to say. I apologize if this checkup video is a lot more edgy and not so graceful as some of the other ones I've had, especially since the last checkup video I did was a lot more positive in comparison to this one, and even the previous ones that came before it. Again, it's not 100% concrete whether or not this will be the last checkup video, but just don't expect another one coming out next year. If I ever do another one, it'll be way, way longer after this one was made. But yeah, that's kind of all I got to say. You don't need to worry about me or anything like that. I'm sure I'll find a way to keep on living life and doing my own shit and whatever. In the meantime, though, I'm going to go ahead and make fun of the Souls community. I mean, them saying that Dark Souls 3 is good, they gotta be on some sort of drug. Nah, but for real though, I appreciate you guys for listening and tuning in to this video. Thank you guys for watching, and hope you guys have a good day, night, afternoon, whatever it is where you're at. Just be sure to have a good one.